going on, everybody? So, you know what? I was thinking the other day, and we've been in this space, or I've been in this space for 3 years now. We're coming up on our third year, and it just got me thinking about where it started and where it's at now. And I started thinking about what would I have done differently, and I kind of wanted to share those things for those that are out there trying to get your setups ready to go. So we're going to share my top 5 things I would have done differently in setting up my space that I use currently. So again, thanks everybody for tuning in. Scott Hogan here. Hopefully this will give you some insights. You know, if you're somebody that's going to be renting out a space or doing any of that type of stuff, just want to be able to help you out and be able to make some better decisions than I did. You know, because I did a lot of trial and error, but hopefully we'll be able to help you and help you get better and use your space and enjoy it. It's a great thing. I love it, and I wouldn't change it, but I definitely would have done it a little differently throughout the process. So before we do that, make sure you click that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already. We're going to have more. Again, we have our Flight Scope Skills Challenge. We're going to be releasing some challenges, trying to help you out with your game, so you don't want to miss out on those. And also, we're going to have more with how to improve, especially coming into the winter time. It's go time if you have an indoor space. This is what you really want it for. So we're going to show you how you can get better with that. But with that, let's move into our top 5 things I would have done differently with the space. Number 1, I would have just thought about my space and what I wanted it to be a little bit more. So a little background to my space. I was teaching and renting out space from somebody else. You know, that's kind of how this used to happen. You'd find somebody that owned a space that was indoor, and they'd have like the full simulator setups, and you would rent the spaces and basically just pay for the time you're using them in your lessons. Now, that's changing because of all the costs of these simulators, and these home simulators are getting so good that you can, make this investment and not have to put in, $150,000 up front to be able to have a full-blown teaching facility. So it's really, really nice to be able to kind of work with that type of budget to put together your own simulator setup. So the thing that happened for me was the place I was teaching, I had the feeling it wasn't doing well. You know, if we had a day where I was teaching, I'd have, they'd say, oh, we had like 18 people come through the door. 15 of them would be people coming to see me. So that's not going to be good for them. And so they're not going to be able to stay open that long. So I started looking at a space where I was going to be able to teach. And what I didn't think about at the time, I was just trying to do what I had already been doing, which was having about 4, 5, 6 people at a time come in. We do group sessions and work, especially with kids, work with them, get them to enjoy the game. And what I wanted was a place where people could hang out, where people can, think about, enjoy the game and just kind of converse a little bit. So where did I go wrong? I put too much stuff in. I should have just had the bare basics, launch monitor to see where you're hitting, the mat to hit at, and just had enough for that. Instead, I had cameras, I had video screens, all this stuff that was really clouding up what was going on. And, you feel like sometimes then you got to use it and all that, and it becomes very difficult to what you're going for. So, think about it. Are you somebody that wants to use this for improvement? Well, you're probably going to need some feedback. You need a camera. Are you going to do live view? Are you going to invest in some USB cameras or some, FireWire cameras that you can get? Or are you going to go the live view camera with an iPad route? Think about where that's going to go. I think about where you want to store it, and that's going to make your setup a lot cleaner and a lot easier to work with. Number 2, it goes right along with that. Think about cables, cable management. Now here in this space, in a retail space, what's odd about it is, and I'm not sure if this is normal in most retail spaces, but this one is like this. There's power only on this side as you're looking, so the back wall. So that really dictated the direction we were going to hit, because we had to be able to plug everything in. And, because I would have rather actually hit the other way for a bunch of different reasons, but, and we'll go over those in a little bit, but you have to think about your power. Again, when you have to wire certain things, you got to run a wire to your launch monitor. You have to run a wire to your iPad, or, are you going to be somebody that brings it out all the time? But then you got to think about, how am I going to charge it if I need to charge it on the fly? Think about the cabling situation, because what will happen is, what I run into is I have an abundance of cables now. I have so many cables because, oh, we tried this cable. I didn't like how that worked. Oh, tried this cable. I didn't like how that worked, or we changed it, and then this happened. So, I mean, in our back room, just power cords, extension cords, cables galore, USB extenders, all that stuff. We just have it. And it's because we kind of weren't sure what we were going to do in the first place. Now, technology has changed. I will say that, where for the better, I think, where now we're using E6 with the iPad setup, much cleaner, much easier to manage. And now we've gone to Apple TV because of that. Again, much cleaner, much easier to manage. I don't have to run cameras. I can use my iPad and then be able to display that on the Apple TV. I mean, all of those reasons it's gotten easier. But think about your cables and how you want to run them, because that's something, if you really want it to look nice, you want to think about how you're going to run your cables and how you're going to hide them so they're not in the way where you're tripping on them when you're bringing your bag in and out, or when other people are showing up. You don't want somebody tripping and ripping a cable out of the wall. If you do that to like a projector, you possibly could blow out the bulb if it was overheated. So things that can happen there. So I would think about your cable situation. Number 3 is take as much stuff out of the hitting area as possible. And so kind of combine this, assume the worst is going to happen, okay? I can't tell you how many people have sent me swing videos that they want for online swing analysis, and they have their enclosures and stuff. If you've got a 5-foot out enclosure, that's actually got a lot of room. I've never done it, but I do hit the ball decently well. But my netting comes out 5 feet, and the very first swing, literally the first ball that was hit in this facility, went into the side wall. We've got it marked, and then there is a whole wall where people hit that side wall, and we make them sign it, just for fun. That's how we have a little bit of fun with it. But you hit that wall, and there it goes. So I see that all the time in online videos where people hit a shank or something, and it's bouncing around their garage. I mean, if you've got a window over there, that's going to be dangerous, and it's going to get expensive if it breaks. So you have to think about the worst. How that worked for me was, if you've seen my setup, I've got the impact screens hanging from a overall cage. And I did that because I wanted more of that, home field, not so separated. But what I didn't think about was I had it on a cage at first. I had a cage built and everything was there, but then there's metal piping in there. And for me, never really a problem. But I'm not the one hitting all the time. We'd have people hit a 3-wood, they'd roll it. It hits the one on the bottom. And it doesn't even have to come back fast. But if it comes back at all, it takes one time for it to just start coming back at you. And for me, maybe it's because this is a retail space and this is other people and not myself. I mean, it was hard to focus, hard to concentrate until we got it hung up and ready to go. And then once we hung the netting up, behind our netting, we've got foam wedges that they use in like yoga. And then we've got the gym flooring that is padded as well. That's up on the wall. So in case somebody rolls it still and it still gets through the netting, I'm ready to go and that ball is going to hit. So just be prepared for the worst, because last thing you want is, like, if you have friends or anybody hanging around, I see this at a bunch of other places too. You just don't want them to be worried about a ball hitting them or hitting you. You don't want that, and anything that can happen will at some point, even from really good players. We saw this in my garage setup before I ever did this. Had a former top 20 high school state player. I mean, even they shanked it off the side concrete wall, and it will happen. So just take as much out. You're going to swing better. You're not going to be worried about hitting things, and it's going to work out a lot better. Number 4 tip that I can give is plan for more space. Maximize what you can get. So again, when I started this place, I tried to get 3 bays in. I was like, okay, 3 bays will fit, and they did fit. But it was tight, it was crammed, and it wasn't, again, kind of goes with that comfortable feeling. It wasn't exactly what I wanted. It wasn't until we just switched it over to 2 bays and said, you know what? I want it to be more comfortable, feel like people can hang out a little bit more, not be so crammed. So we switched it to the 2 bays, and it's been great. It's just more relaxed, more room to move. People aren't dodging people. We never had an incident before, but it just felt crowded. And it was like, all right, I don't want that. So, plan on if you get it, kind of goes back to step one. If you're somebody that's getting this and you want to have people over to play and do things, you want to think about, all right, I need space for people to be in here and be able to hang out and not just feel like they're plastered up against the wall trying to avoid getting hit by a ball or a club. So that's something that's going to be determined by how much space you have. I get that. But when you are building your setups, I know people will ask, all right, is this enough? If you can go more, go more. All right, you're going to like it. The best setups I've seen have had ample room around it. You're not going to have what we call indoor swing syndrome, which is where you kind of feel like you're in a box and you swing and you're not making the best swing because you feel like you might hit something or you're feeling cramped. So all of that will go away, and it's just so much nicer when you do that. And the last, number 5, this one actually is the most important. And until I started doing this, I didn't really think this stuff mattered until I started doing it. And then you just realize how much it really can affect your space. But find ways to add personal touches to your space. It's going to make it your space. It's going to feel like your space. Give you a little bit of ownership of the space, so it's gonna stay nicer, and you're gonna feel good. There's something to be said for when you feel good about your space and where you're practicing. It's gonna work. It's like when you go to the range. If you go to the range that's just beat up and it's a sand pit, that's not going to be very good. And you're just not going to feel like, I'm not feeling like I'm practicing in a prestigious or a pristine place. Whereas compared to when you go to a really nice place, you're like, oh, I can practice here all day. And then you got that little extra energy as you go. So for me, once I started adding in, little decorative touches, putting the little ball pyramid in, making just that nice look, getting everything kind of clean with the lines and adding some lights, even just like goofy lights, like we did some RGB lights. We've done that in a few spots. Started adding paintings. I do pictures, and this is a studio for me, so we do a lot of video in here. But I started adding some of the pictures I'd taken. I got those printed on canvases. We started adding the flags of all the universities where our players have gone to. So, just stuff like that where you walk in and you're like, yes, this is a great place. This is a place where I feel good and positive, and that's going to just only make you better as you practice and get going. And I can't express how important that is. Whether it's getting nice chairs or whatever, it's just going to make a difference. So put in personal touches where you can. Obviously, budget's going to play into that, but it doesn't have to be the expensive equipment. It can be some of the little things, but I think it really will help you out and make your space more enjoyable. So that would be number 5 for me. So that was the 5 things. Again, hopefully this helps you with your decisions and planning out your space and ways to complete it. I've seen some really awesome spaces in some of the Facebook groups. Unbelievable jobs to find some, some inspiration there for those. But really, really cool to see this community and this side of golf growing. I do think this is where we'll see golf heading. It's just a lot of fun to be a part of this tech side and the simulator side of the game, and more softwares and stuff coming out, only going to make it better. So really excited for that. And as always, if you have questions or comments, leave them down below. I'd love to hear what you think about it as well. But with that, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next video. Peace.